You're welcome to ask any question you like, especially if it's not covered in the prepared questions as well. To do that and to keep things a little bit organized here this evening, we're going to take a bit of a break after we get through the main part of the program. There is some pens and some forms at the back, just as you came in on this side of the room, that ask you for your name and to write down your question. So feel free to take one of those ballots, and if there's a question that occurs to you during the course of the evening, you'll be able to get that to us during the intermission, and then we'll ask some of those questions in the second half of the program tonight. So just want to draw your attention to that before we get underway here this evening. And like I said, we'll get underway in about 5 minutes, so make yourself comfortable. Good evening. Good evening. How's everybody? Excellent. That's one way to respond. Yes. 2-minute response. That's what we're looking for. 2-minute applause. Thank you. You're off to a good start. We're going to do a little bit of housekeeping before we get underway with the program this evening. First of all, I'll just quickly introduce myself. My name is Russell Bowers, and I'm the co-host of Daybreak North, heard on CBC Radio 1, weekday mornings between 6 and 8:30 a.m. at 91.5 FM. And we're very proud and very pleased to be here tonight presenting this forum for all candidates at School District 57. And we also want to thank our partners, the Prince George Citizen and the College of New Caledonia. And first of all, thanks for coming out on a Wednesday night. Give yourself a round of applause for being here. Now, we're going to hear from each of our candidates here tonight at least twice over the course of the evening. And for those of you just arriving or who have arrived since I last mentioned this, we do have some question ballots, which are back by the entrance on this side of the room as you're coming in. And if anyone has a question in mind, we will be taking those questions from the audience a little bit later on. So feel free to just go back, get yourself a ballot, and write down your name, write down your question, and we'll ask those questions in the second half here this evening. The other thing is that we are doing a couple of things with this tonight. We're recording the event for CBC Radio, so we'll be airing some of these clips on our program tomorrow morning, and we're also making a YouTube video of it, which will be available on our website. We'll talk about that as we go along. And so for those of you that want to share the video of this evening, you're certainly welcome to do that over the course of the last couple of weeks of the campaign. Those of you who have smartphones with you here this evening, you might want to take those out right now. And if you wouldn't mind, turn them on as loudly as possible. And if you happen to get a call in the middle of things this evening, don't worry, we'll stop everything. No one will talk. We'll just listen to your phone call and wait for you to finish politely. And then once you finish your phone call, we'll get things back underway. However, if you don't want us to listen to your phone calls here this evening, what I would suggest is perhaps just turning your phone to silent or vibrate. But certainly if you've got social media on your phone, like Facebook, Twitter, any of the things that the kids are doing these days, feel free to make some comments on Twitter, to mention at Daybreak North as you do that, so we'd appreciate that as well. And certainly tomorrow you're welcome to link back to our YouTube video, which will be available on our website, cbc.ca/Daybreak North. Now I'm going to do one quick thing over here. This is Book, by the way. She's been a really big help to us. A round of applause for Book. She's so good. We were recording this, and then I realized I was in the middle of all this stuff. I said, oh, I'm supposed to press record on a recorder. And Book is so good, she did it for me. So now we have audio that we'll be getting for the presentation. And the other person I want to introduce here this evening is the man who helps put everything together on our show. And without him, I would just be a host who forgets things. Andrew Curriati is the producer of Daybreak. He's sitting there in the hat. And so Andrew in the hat and me will, if you want to just come find us during the intermission, you can hand your questions to us at that point, and then we'll figure out some way to ask the questions as we go along here this evening. We've decided to make things as random as we can because with so many candidates, we just want to make sure everybody gets a fair chance. We'll be giving each of them an opportunity to come up to this microphone right here. And they'll be given a minute to have some opening statements. So feel free to use your minute as you see fit. And Andrew, in the hat, has a couple of signs with him. And he will let you know when you've used 30 of your seconds and when you've got 10 seconds left. So when you see those, that's time to wind it up. And if not, I will come over there. So that's about it for us. I guess that's it for things like housekeeping. I hope you have a good evening here, and thank you so much for your interest in the school trustee race, and certainly being involved in municipal politics is a very important thing, and we want to try and get as many people out in Prince George to take part in the discussion around who's going to form our next council, who's going to be our next mayor, and certainly who's going to be on our next school board. And I don't know if you heard on the radio this morning, but my co-host is placed in, she's in Prince Rupert, Carolina DeReich. And Carolina and I have a friendly wager going on. I think Prince George is going to get a higher voter turnout than Prince Rupert. So, all that to say is, don't let me down. I do not want to have to pony up the dough to buy her something. So your help is greatly appreciated for that. So we're going to start the formal program here, and in the meantime, hopefully you'll have lots of great questions that we can ask in the second half, and we will do things, hopefully, in a fair manner here this evening. Good evening and welcome to the College of New Caledonia. My name is Russell Bowers, and this is an all-candidates forum for School District 57. Our thanks to our partners in putting off this forum tonight, the Prince George Citizen, as well as the College of New Caledonia. And we also want to welcome the media colleagues who have joined us here this evening. I think I've seen most of them, or at least all of them here this evening, from 250 News and also from the Prince George Free Press. Thank you guys for being here this evening. And we have 17 of the 18 candidates taking part here this evening. So we're limited to about 90 minutes for our program this evening. We'll try and be as strategic as we can. So we have divided up the evening into 3 parts. We'll have part 1, which is opening statements. Part 2, I'll be posing questions to each of the candidates. And in part 3, we'll open things up to questions from the audience. We'll take a bit of a break between part 1 and part 2. We also want to say hello to the people who are viewing on YouTube, and this video will be available at cbc.ca/datebreaknorth. So feel free to share the video by going to our website and clicking on the link to the video. You can also get hold of us on social media at Daybreak North on Twitter and Daybreak North on Facebook.com as well. Now, to do the opening statements, we were trying to figure out what way could we do this? So we have a variety of ways of bringing people up to the microphones tonight. So I thought we will do it for the opening statements, not by alphabetical order or height or any of those things. We'll do it simply by seating order. So your order will come in the order that you sat down. So if you, where you sat, that's what you picked. So we'll start with Bob Harris on the far end. So we'll just work our way down the back line and then work our way down the front line. So Bob will allow Bob to go first. You'll have a minute for your opening statement, Bob. And then you'll get notices from Andrew.
Thank you very much. Gratifying to see so many people out this evening, particularly with Game 7 of the World Series. As I said, my name is Bob Harris, and the things that I think are important to the role of a school district trustee include, first and foremost, focusing on the learning and achievement of the students in our school district. I think it's important that we ensure that their available resources that come into the school district are allocated in the most effective way possible. We ensure that we have people in leadership positions who have the support and the respect of the people who are serving under them, that we promote high expectations in terms of behavior throughout the system. It's important that people know exactly what they're looking for. I've had 35 years in education, and I've had an opportunity to do a great deal of work in terms of policy development.
It's time.
I'll have to take it there.
Thank you very much.
All right, our next candidate is Kate Cook. Kate.
I am. Of course, make the introvert go first. So I'm Kate Cook, and I'm running for trustee. This would be re-electing me for trustee. I'm running again because I think our expectations need to still be higher. within the school district. I've listened to many principals talk about high expectations, and I agree. I think we need to set them higher. We need more transparency in the school district. I still think we have a lot of in-camera. We need more collaboration with our partner groups, and we need to work with them as we're making more and more decisions within the school district. That sign really throws you off. I want to get back in and ask more questions. I want to be more progressive. I've quite often been one of the 7 in asking questions and trying to push us forward into more collaboration, more transparency to keep on going. So anyways, yeah, that's where I'm writing again, sorry. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Kate. This is sort of the, sometimes the danger of going first, because the first 2 or 3 have to get used to this whole process, and by the time we get to the front row, we'll seem like old pros at this. All right, and who's next?
Tim Bennett.
Tim. This is Tim Bennett.
Good evening. I believe that every child has a right to an equal and quality education, and that when we proactively invest in a child's life, we not only open their eyes to what is, but open their minds to what could be. I believe that the greatest return on investment is an investment in our children and our education. That is why I, Tim Bennett, am seeking re-election for trustee for School District 57. As a trustee, my role is to ensure that every child is receiving the best possible education, that every staff has the resources needed to help shape our future leaders, and that we set the direction of the district through policy, budget, and providing appropriate and efficient governance. Each and every day, roadblocks are thrown up in front of us, and we need to be loud and advocate for our students, our staff, and our parents, not just those that are currently in our system, but those who still have to enter it. I believe I have the skills, experience, and passion to be a trustee for another 4 years, and I thank you for your support on election day. Thank you.
Tim Bennett. And next is Andrew Burton.
Good evening. You know, when we started this evening, our MC asked people about their cell phones. 10 years ago, he wouldn't have asked that, because half the people in the room wouldn't have them, and those that did would only use them for making calls. That was 10 years ago. What's the world going to be like 10 years from now? We don't know. We don't know what technological changes there will be. We don't know what economic changes there will be. We don't know what social changes there will be. We need to create an educational system that prepares our young people for what the world will be like 20 years from now, 10 years from now. That means creating young people who are critical thinkers, adaptive, and able to continue to learn throughout the life cycle. That's what matters. Thank you.
Andrew Burton. Dennis. This is Dennis Fudge.
Good thing I'm good because I can talk faster than him. I'm not the best person for this job, and if I was going to tell you I'm the best person for this job, I'd be a typical politician. I'd be running in political government. You got people here who got over 40 years experience inside, probably a lot of people with 30 to 40 years experience, whereas I only have about 7 years experience on the outside representing the parents. So why would I be better than them? Well, there's one thing I have that they don't have. And if I actually asked all of you, if you were able to drop an egg from 10 feet on a concrete floor without cracking it, how would you do it? 99.9% of you would probably put bubble wrap around it, you would probably put a parachute on it, you spend all kinds of time, make certain it will not crack. And then I would come up and say, you just wasted your time, because whatever you do, there's no way you can crack that concrete floor. So, you know, you can vote 7 people in that's really good, being lots of experience, putting bubble wrap around an egg, or you can have at least one person looking from the outside box.
Dennis Fudge. And next it is Eric Defanel.
I want to thank you all for coming tonight. It's extremely exciting to see you here. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional Clay Canadian territory and thank the people for letting us conduct our business here this evening. My name is Eric Defanel. I'm an advocate I'm a student, I'm a firefighter, and I'm a soldier. And if you're in favor of electing passionate, tireless, and loud representatives to work for you, I think we have a lot to talk about. I want to see this district's resources used to ensure the best possible outcomes for students, the most equitable conditions for teachers, and that everyone has confidence in this community, in their school board. We do these things by providing the support for our learners, regardless of their differences. We do this by advocating for funding in our schools, including the regions. And we do this by being champions in our community. We answer the questions that are asked of us, and we're always present. I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak, and I hope I can count on your support this November.
And next up is Brenda Hooker.
Thank you for coming this evening. What is my role as trustee? To be a strong advocate for children who vocally demands the resources they need, creates education programs that challenge and stimulate them, and ensures they have safe and nurturing learning environments. I am a great education advocate. When I was elected in 2011, I promised to be accountable and to conduct my duties with integrity and hard work. I have delivered on those promises. Why am I the best person for the job? I'm not the best person, as Dennis said. I'm just one of 7 on a team. Skills I have are my accounting designation and collaborating to bring the viewpoints of all our stakeholders to the discussion by educating myself on the issues with an open-minded and common sense approach. I have 3 main goals over my next trustee term. Using my financial skills as we grapple with budget challenges, rebuilding educations, and continuing to be a strong voice for education transformation. I'm a proven leader. Please vote for me. Brenda Hooker.
In the business, we call that talking to the clock. Brenda Hooker, thank you. And next up, Don Sabo.
Hello, everyone. My name is Don Sable, and I'm running for school trustee. I could talk a little bit about myself, but I have a flyer on the back table there that says a lot about me and my background and the things that I bring to the table as far as the school boardroom table. I'd like to talk about what my approach is going to be. It's about change, and it's about being inclusive. I think that it's time that the school district changed, and one of the platforms that I'm running on is geographical representation, meaning 2 board seats are dedicated to rural communities, 1 from the Roxton Valley and 1 from Mackenzie. The other 5 would represent Prince George. We need to be more inclusive as a district. We haven't been doing that. As far as my approach goes within the community in Prince George, we still need to be even more inclusive. We need to include our Aboriginal communities. We need to include our regional districts. That we have schools in all of them, and we need to be more inclusive. That's my message. My name is Don Sable. Vote for me, vote for change, and vote for being inclusive.
Thank you, Don Sabo. And we're going to go to the front line now. We're going to start here on this end. And some of these people you're probably hearing from for the first time, like myself. And so, the old saying where you have to hear a name at least 3 times to remember it. Well, this is the challenge tonight, to make sure we have everybody's name heard at least 3 times. So up next, Bruce Weed. So Bruce, come on up to the microphone.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I see my role as a trustee to bring input to maximizing student learning success, ensuring student safety, valuing teachers' contributions to their students, their school, and the community, building strong school communities where all students come to learn and value their contributions to society, and instilling a belief of the ABCs, achieving, believing, and caring by learning and working together. My experience across School District 57 as a principal of rural schools in Dunster, McBride, Hickson, Hugo Lake, and in-town schools in Malaspina and Vanway show that I know the needs and the challenges of the whole district. My focus has always been on lifelong learning and student success at all levels of public education. I believe the future outlook of Prince George and surrounding areas rests on the skills, attitudes, and strengths of our students of School District 57. Thank you very much.
Bruce Weed. And up next,
Tony Cable.
Tony Cable, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening. Thanks for coming. Similar to Bruce, I have been in School District 57. I've worked for 35 years at many schools as principal and teacher. I also have experience working in McKinsey. I bring, I feel, a wealth of experience to this role as school trustee, and I want to be part of the discussion, and I want to make sure our students have a good education, achievement levels are raised, and I want to make sure we have a balanced approach. I do not want issue. I feel I want to speak for Mackenzie, Belmont, and other issues. I want to speak for the Aboriginal community. I want to speak for all groups in our community. So I bring forward a balanced approach with a lot of experience, and I want to advocate for the students and put the funds closer to the classroom. Thank you.
Tony Cable. And up next is Cheryl Warrington.
Thank you very much, and good evening, everybody. This is a race to get finished, so I really will use my notes, but good evening all. And as a retired teacher for 30 years, I do bring a strong background in education. As a trustee for the past 9 years, my role has been first to fully understand the operational challenges of our district and the responsibilities, the governance responsibilities of the board, which are many. And secondly, to address the needs, the goals, and the priorities of our district. It's all about our students and putting our students first. I bring my commitment to responsible leadership, my energy, and a strong voice of advocacy for our children and for this work. I see the board as a team committed to ensuring that we are delivering the highest quality of education for all our students. And I have been very privileged to serve this district for 9 years, and on November 15th, I ask your support to continue this work. Thank you.
Cheryl Warrington, thank you. And it's Denise McDonald next.
First off, good evening, everyone. Thanks for your interest in our schools, children. I see the school district as an upside down pyramid, and as our role as trustee is as a team, the senior administration at the bottom of that pyramid, supporting our principals, our teachers, and at the very top, our students. I have been going to board meetings for the last 5.5 years as a very interested parent. I am from Giscombe Elementary. I discovered a passion for public education and early literacy, and I believe that this district is on the forefront of change for those educational opportunities, and our students need that change, and they need to be represented for the diversity that is our district. And I have a lot of relationships built from principals all the way up to MLAs and administration, and I believe my experience will serve our students well in School District 57, so please vote for me, Denise McDonald. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise McDonald. And next is Betty Beckering. Betty.
Good evening, and thank you for coming. I'm very familiar with this theater. I worked here at CNC for 15 years and stood in this very spot many times recruiting cooperative education students. Familiar is comfortable. Not unlike my current role as trustee for School District 57, I've become very familiar with the roles and responsibility of a trustee, and I'm comfortable visiting schools, attending and speaking at graduations, doing committee work, board meetings, etc. The familiarity frees your mind of the anxiety of not knowing and allows you to get on with the work of the board. Over the last several months, there's been an emphasis on what is wrong with our system. I would like to tell you a few things that are right. Graduation numbers of our Aboriginal students continues to rise yearly. We have the lowest funding per student in Canada and one of the highest ranked education systems. Imagine what we could do with more funding. On November 15th, please vote Betty Beckering.
Betty Beckering, thank you. And up next, it's Valentine Crawford.
One second, I have to do this upwards. I would like to recognize that we are on the traditional territory of the Clay Tenay, and my name is Valentine, and I'm a grade 10 dropout. But I'm also a high school graduate because of the inspiration of teachers. the inspiration of this district, the foundations of the education system that this district offers allowed me to graduate after dropping out. I'm a gay man. I know what it is like day in and day out to face adversity, to face the challenges of change. I want to thank you for the opportunity once, for being a trustee, and I look forward to it again. Thank you.
Valentine Crawford, and up next, it's Trish Bella.
Good evening. While serving as a trustee, I was elected to the BC School Trustees Association Board of Directors. As a director, I was fortunate to have the opportunity to voice the complexities of delivering quality public education in a rural environment. Locally, by presenting a motion to the current board, I was successful in challenging the trustees to reconsider the decision to not support a standalone LGBTQ policy. The creation and implementation of Policy 4117 LGBTQ happened with input and support of our education partners and community. Looking forward, along with addressing funding inadequacies, I will continue to pressure the provincial government to reinstate a formal committee for rural education partners to effect change and policy. I ask for your vote on November the 14th and to return me to the board. Thank you.
Trish Bella, and next it's Dory Alger.
Hi, as a candidate for school board trustee, I will act on behalf of the communities represented in the district, listening to their concerns and working towards building and maintaining a school system that reflects their priorities, values, and expectations. We guide the district by setting policy, making plans, and improving the budget. Being that I've been a budget analyst at the City of Prince George for the last 8 years, I'd be very excited about this piece. My number one priority is for our learners to experience academic achievement in the areas of literacy and numeracy by providing additional direct support in the classroom. I will recommend creative solutions to provide an environment that is conducive to learning, both in physical infrastructure and atmosphere, offering a safe, caring, and orderly learning situation. Innovation in fiscal responsibility and using funds where they're most needed and bring the most benefit is very important to me. I believe that teamwork is foundation to our success. So why me? Because I listen, I care, and I want this generation, this board, to leave a legacy. Thank you.
Dory Alger, and finally it's Sheldon Harris. Sheldon.
Good evening. If there's any parents, students, or teachers attending tonight, I'd like to thank you for the value and purpose that you've added to the last 28 years of my life. I have routinely worked in a variety of school districts over this last period. I have firsthand experience with how solutions are found in other areas of the province. We have some wonderful staff in this district, and I am concerned about losing connection with them. I call them the second greatest resource the district has. I think it's important that the board provides leadership and management and comes up with a plan to reconnect with all of the valuable people that we have in this district. One of the issues that I had with coming to this meeting tonight was, how do you stand out in a field that is this broad? And I thought that perhaps if I took the old guy out and bought him a new dress, I would get your attention and perhaps your vote. Thank you.
Sheldon Harris, and if you're voting on the factor of sartorial eloquence, you know who to vote for. I think if anything's clear, some of these people we're hearing from for the first time as a community. And I think from the breadth of experience that we have on this stage tonight, and it certainly is a very diverse group that could be elected to the next school board. And I also want to take a moment just to say that a lot of times speaking in public is a very difficult thing to do, and certainly it's a very brave thing to do. There's an old joke that says that people fear public speaking more than they fear death, which means that you'd rather be the reason for a funeral than give the eulogy at it. So, absolutely. What we're going to do now with the second part of the evening is we're going to invite candidates 3 at a time to come up to these microphones. You can pick any microphone you like, but try not to fight over all of them. And also certainly do feel free to adjust the microphone to your height or wherever you need to have it so that the microphone is in front of your mouth so everybody can hear you. So feel free to get comfortable. We're going to randomize it a little bit simply because everyone here will probably hear a question tonight. Their experience will say, oh, this is the question I want to ask or want to answer. This is what my experience is. But of course, as we know, being on a school board, you could be dealing with just about anything. So we thought we'd try and randomize the process a little bit. So I'm just going to pick 3 names at a time, and we'll invite 3 people up at a time. And I think because we've got an even number of candidates, we'll do this in waves of 3, and then our last group question will be a group of 2. Picking his name actually right off the bat reminds me, one of the candidates that couldn't make it here tonight is Chris Stern. Chris wanted to be with us, of course, but he wasn't available. I understand Chris has a statement that he's brought along, which is at the back table. So anyone who's interested in reading that, I know there's a copy of it on the back table. So if you're interested in what Chris has to say about the school board, feel free to have a look back there. So the first 3 people I'm going to call up are Valentine Crawford.
First.
And I'm going to call up Denise McDonald.
Oh, yes. Ready?
And Don Sabo. All right. So this is the only question that you'll be dealing with, and then you're free to return to your seats. And so the first question of the evening is, in 2011 census, there were 900 more students of high school age than there were kids aged 10 to 14 years of age. 900 fewer kids is equivalent to 1 high school. Now, which high school would you close and
So, am I first? Is this my?
why don't we go with Don first? We'll randomize that too.
As soon as this mic's on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So that's quite a perception of reality right there, and I'm going to reject it and substitute it with my own. We don't have to close a high school. I think that when that question was developed, there are the outside communities of Mackenzie that has a secondary school. Valemont, McBride has secondary schools, so if their enrollment dropped by 200, collectively, then you're looking at a drop of 700 in Prince George. You have approximately 6 high schools in Prince George. If those high schools had their enrollments dropped by 100, and say PGSS, which is 1,200, being dropped by 200, then that's a total of 900. So you'll have all of these high schools in our district that are operating at 75%. Why would we close them? The big part, the thing that's wrong with that question is that it looks at data in the past. You also need to look at projected enrollment and what's coming in the future. And I have on 2 good authorities that enrollment's going to increase. First, Christy Clark herself said there's going to be a boom, economic boom, and John Dorothy says there's going to be 20,000 more people in Prince George.
We'll let you come back. Denise, stick around. Denise, we'll let you answer the question next. You'll have a minute.
I personally don't believe just because the enrollment has dropped, my choice would be to find the money to not close any schools. There's many partnerships available, there's alternatives, many times it is not student enrollment, but the facility that they are in is ineffective. There's many options that can be looked at. We found those options at Wiscombe to keep a school open that was rural, that did not have large enrollment. Those students are entitled to education, and they are entitled to an equal education. Economy of scale works great in accounting principles, but does not translate into education in my belief. And there is no reason to be closing schools if there is still enrollment there.
And Valentine?
You simply don't close a high school. Come on. Like birthing rates are unstable and unpredictable. And really, at the end of the day, it is what it generates enrollment. But your high schools are key components of a community and of a neighborhood. And at the same time, they're dependent on elementary schools. They build our neighborhoods, they build our communities. Mr. Sabo said it quite eloquently about Valemount and Mackenzie and McBride struggling. Denise, at the same time, and I froze.
All right, well, I'll tell you what, we're going to spend a little more than just the 1 minute on this, but I want to just refocus the question because in true political nature, you avoided answering the question. But let me just quickly ask, just for a quick thought from each of you. Valentine, I'll start with you on this one. If the board was faced with the decision that a high school absolutely must close, there is no way around it, you've looked at all the alternatives, what would be a priority that you would put forward as a reason for why a school should be saved over another? Like, what would be the decision process on which high school you choose to close?
Ask the guy that closed schools. You know what, you simply cannot get one school against another. And that's exactly what got us into the position that we did the first time. I can't honestly answer that in a fair, meaningful way, because every school has a culture and every school has its own unique challenges and needs. Closing a school by some sort of priority list isn't the answer and not the road I would take, period.
All right, Don, I'll give you an opportunity. Next one would be a priority you'd look at for having to close the school.
Well, if there was a school that had to be closed, I would still resist it as the District Parent Advisory Council Chair. I went through a lot of school closures. I mean, there was a lot of school closures. And the province really has to follow its whole policy on school closure and disposal of assets. When a school is set to close, first they should be looking at alternate ways of using that school. If schools have full, even a quarter full, the other half or 3/4 could be used for a community center, or it could be used for a daycare, or it could be used for a health clinic. Just because a school isn't fully populated doesn't mean you have to close the whole school down. Keep a portion of that school for a school. And that's most important for small rural schools. So that's my position. I'm not gonna close that darn school.
All right, Denise, we'll give you the last word on this.
I agree fully with what they've said, and I think that there's just so many things. It's the facilities we have to look at, and those are what a lot of times cost the money. School is used 6 to 8 hours a day, when it can bring in funding that can be used in those other 8 hours. I said partnerships, innovations, creative ways to deliver that education in a smaller setting. I know we all have heard about it's not bricks and mortar, but unfortunately our schools are made of bricks and mortar, and they need to exist, and they need to exist where we are because they are the center of our communities.
All right, thank you so much. So once again, Denise McDonald, as well as Don Sabo and Valentine Crawford. So for our next three, I'm going to call forward Eric Depanel, Brenda Hooker, and Sheldon Harris. So feel free to get comfortable there. All right, so your question. Our Canadian cousins in New Brunswick eliminated school boards altogether in 1996. Given that schools are in extra need of money and school boards are often limited in what they can actually do, why should we pay for school boards and trustees rather than putting the money towards classrooms and administration? And I'll start with Eric on this one.
So I have 2 points. The board does something extremely important that no other organization is able to do. You come here, you learn about us, you pick somebody, a group of us 7 in this case, to represent you. If we screw up, my phone number is 250-255-2853, and you tell me, and we will fix that. We will do everything we can. I don't think there's a relationship outside of that that's like that. Additionally, policy and bylaw. No one likes policy and bylaw outside of maybe a few experts, but that's what we deal with. To replace us, you'd have to hire other people to do that job, likely at a cost close to, if not exceeding that same thing. We do this because we love to do this, not because we're paid to. Thank you.
Thank you. Sheldon?
Thank you for the question. To me, the answer is actually fairly short. It kind of ties into the previous question. If you have to close a school, who would you rather talk to about doing this process? As my previous speaker said, someone that's local, or would you like somebody from Victoria to close the schools for you? So I think school boards are an important face and a relationship with the community. Thank you.
And Brenda.
Thank you. Trust me, I've asked myself this very question. My conclusion is that we're a cheap check and balance in the education system. Our board costs this district less than 0.001% of our operating budget. And without us, we wouldn't have the LGBTQ policy, the recent MAC decision, or teacher pay for September 19th. Folks may not agree with every decision the board makes, but at least we have locally elected advocates to advocate for education. Getting rid of school boards would be like saying the same, getting rid of mayor and council and having Ottawa and Victoria make all the decisions. Every community and every school district is diverse and different, and we need locally elected advocates. But we do need to take a good look at the reports that have been done about school board governance and how we govern ourselves and how we be accountable to our public. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now, you don't get off that easy. There will be follow-ups. I guess the question, again, just sort of related to that idea, when money is tight, certainly decisions have to be made. If it's not going to be closing schools, according to the last three candidates, it might be in the area of the school trusteeship. So I suppose over the course of the next 4 years, during the course of your time on the board, what do you think is one thing that you can do as a board member to justify the existence of the school board, or to at least let the public see that there's value in having a set of trustees at the school board level? Eric, I'll start down there with you again.
Sure. We need to demonstrate that there's value in having us around. If we're not answering our phone, if we're not being present in real communities, if we're not acting on behalf of the LGBTQ community and Aboriginal communities, then maybe we shouldn't be around. If we're not doing our job, absolutely we should look for that cost saving. So that will be the challenge for hopefully myself and 6 others, but not 7 people who are elected, to really show you that there's value in our position, make you see that value and work together.
Sheldon?
Did some very good comments, and I'm sorry, I was looking for the number on what the actual cost of operating a school board is, and I think you said it was 0.01%, or something of the overall budget. So is that an affordable expense that you would be prepared to give up local leadership and direction to save that minimal amount of money? Again, the local face, the local responsibility, the people that understand the nature. We're still trying to convince Victoria about the need for busing and snow removal. They don't see it here as, there is life beyond hope. And sometimes it takes some management. I think the school board is the first level to provide that.
All right, and Brenda?
I think one of the things we really have to work on is having an awareness of what trustees do, the services they provide, and how we can be more accountable to our stakeholders. How we can involve everybody as a team in our decision-making process and our discussions. How we govern ourselves and to make sure we're fiscally responsible with the dollars that do go towards our governance. I'm very aware that every dollar that I cost the district takes a dollar out of the classroom. And that's why I myself went through the process of trying to determine whether there was value in what I was doing or not. But I do know that I've worked very hard and I have been accountable, and I think that's what all trustees need to do in order to make sure that there's value in that position.
All right, thank you so much. Once again, Brenda Hooker, Sheldon Harris, Eric Deppino. And our next 3 are Bruce Weeb and Cheryl Warrington and Bob Harris. And feel free, like I said, to readjust the mics as you need to, so that it's comfortable for you. All right. So, your question. The school district has been criticized for being slow to accommodate gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and queer children in the classroom through anti-bullying and other policies. What, if anything, would you change to make classrooms more inclusive? And if you wouldn't change anything, why not? Start with Cheryl on this one.
Well, first of all, I need to comment on the most important work, one of the most important works this current board did, and that was to create an LGBTQ policy. This board is also been actively engaging our community in the development of work that is supporting our classrooms around anti-bullying and inclusivity. Regarding the question of what would I change to make a classroom more inclusive, it's not what I would change, it's what I will support. The culture of our schools, the caring, respectful, and welcoming relationships and places to learn and work is what I would support and will support to promote in all our schools.
Thank you, Cheryl. Bruce next.
Thank you. I believe the key issue here is the issue of bullying. All students want to be treated fairly, equally, and with respect. Thus, all students should be respected, whether it's sexual orientation, skin color, hair, or none, culture, or stature. We have to ensure students are respected and responsible for respecting their peers. All students should be able to make the most of their learning opportunities without interruptions. We need to empower classroom teachers to ensure respect, responsibility, and safety maximize student learning for all.
And Bob.
Thank you. I think policies with regard to issues of this nature with bullying or issues with LGBTQ, they go so far. What I would like to suggest is there's another approach that you can use that's very helpful. Policy can do a lot to define the boundaries and make sure that everybody understands what happens to the person who transgresses. But another approach is to try and use the unofficial leadership often within the school, that's among students, to help you achieve your goals. Let me give you an example. One of the things that I found in the 10 years that I worked at one of the schools, it was Kelly Road Secondary School, in terms of grade 8 boys, they tend to behave with a lot of exuberance. And they do things that are sometimes inappropriate. If you wanted to change their behavior, all you had to watch is a grade 12 girl give them a stare. The behavior changed almost immediately. It's a little bit light, but there are ways that you can use that to help change.
Okay, thank you, Bob. We do have a follow-up, and I guess we've heard a lot of talk about policy, and the word ensure comes up a lot under these kinds of discussions. But either from experience or an experience that you hope to bring into your term on the school board, what do you think is something that you personally would do to look at these policies to make sure that they were going to follow through, or where you spotted a problem, how would you correct it, or how would you look at correcting it? Something that you would personally do. Cheryl, I'll start with you on that.
Well, I can actually speak to an example when at Kelly Road again, the student voice met, and they had a very, very important discussion around bullying, around harassment, about the needs of students within the school and how we support students in our schools. And it was the student voice that told us a lot about the need for counseling, about the need of advocacy at the school level, where all students require an advocate. And so in answer to the question, what can we do? We need to engage our students more in this conversation, and we need to build those caring, supporting environments in our classrooms and our schools, and support the programs and the services that are available, and build services where they're not.
All right, Cheryl, and Bob, I'll come to you next on that.
I tend to agree with that, and our students in our schools are an enormously valuable resource, and we often don't use them to their full capacity. Just to give you another illustration, I know that we had an issue at one point with students doing some bullying, and it involved a student kind of in the middle grades who was making life miserable for a student who happened to be in grade 8, relatively new to the school. We had a terrific group of senior students, and a couple of the students in the senior class simply took the individual aside and said,
at Kelly Road Secondary School, we don't do that. And it wasn't threatening, it was just making it clear to that individual that that's not the kind of behavior that's the norm in our building. And that's not the kind of thing that we would accept. And I will tell you that we as teachers could impose all kinds of sanctions on that individual, but it wouldn't have the same impact. It just doesn't work nearly as effectively.
Okay, Bob. And Bruce, I'll let you have the last word.
Thank you. Two examples come to mind for me. One, at one of the schools I was at, I formed a peer behavior review committee of students. And the students, with parents and with myself, sat in the committee and we reviewed behaviors and made recommendations. And that was a very effective way of having student involvement and making that an example that students want to be respected and want to be treated equally. The other example that comes to mind is that many students in need look to someone to talk to. And one of the things that I was fortunate to be able to do was accommodate a UNBC master's student who was doing a counseling degree. And that person was able to work in our school as a practicum, and he counseled students and was available to them and in a confidential, private manner. And that was a very effective way of helping students in need and really at no cost to the school district. So two examples there that would help.
Thank you, Bruce. So once again, Bruce Weed and Cheryl Warrington and Bob Harris, thank you. This is an all candidates forum for School District 57, and you're watching this debate live here at the College of New Caledonia, one of our partners in putting off this forum tonight, as well as on YouTube and on our website, cbc.ca/Daybreak North. My name is Russell Bowers, and we're about halfway through our prepared questions, and I just want to remind those of us in the hall here tonight that we will have an opportunity for questions from the audience. We do have ballot forms at the back of the room, and you're welcome to grab one, and we'll take a break after these next three questions. And you are welcome to jot down those questions on the ballot form, and then during the break, you can hand those questions either to me or to Andrew, and we'll ask some of them after we come back from the break. So it's time for us to have three more candidates. And the next three are Tony Cable, and Dory Alger, and Andrew Burton. Once you get into position. All right, thank you. So, your question. Over the past 3 years, there has been some question about the freedom teachers have to speak publicly about issues they face in the classroom. Some BC school districts have adopted policies that explicitly allow teachers to talk about politics with parents and the public. If elected, would you support policy that explicitly allows local teachers to do the same? So I'll start the discussion with Tony Cable.
Thank you. The policy or regulation in the district as it stands now is that teachers and staff not engage in irresponsible public comment that would undermine confidence in public education. And I agree with that. And most teachers I've worked with and most staffs I've worked with would agree with that sort of statement. But I think when you look at public comment, I think teachers should be able to speak and write in public and online what they feel, and they should be able to express their opinions to a point. And I have worked with a lot of responsible staffs, and they know when they can give their opinions and speak freely, and they know when it's appropriate not to express those opinions. And they know that when they're having parent-teacher conferences and other public meetings, that's the time to be professional, and when they're talking to their colleagues in other forums, to express their views freely.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Dory Alger.
I'm definitely a fan of free speech and constructive criticism as long as it doesn't damage the system. I believe that teachers have the right to speak on the issues that they're facing, but they also have to do it, again, in certain confidence. I believe that they need to be able to share their concerns in a constructive way without undermining the entire system, and I think that's possible. I think they're mature adults, they're wise educators, they have the ability to rein in their comments. Thank you.
And Andrew.
This is about freedom of speech, it's about human rights. People have the right to their opinions and they have the right to express them, and that includes teachers. We have been blessed in this community and in the North with a great many extremely skilled, talented, thoughtful, and caring people who work within the school system. And to say that we're going to put limits on what you can say and what opinions you can express shows a real lack of faith in that group. We owe them better. We owe them our support, and we owe them our trust. We already trust them with our children. We need to trust them to behave responsibly and fairly and honestly with their opinions as well. But I think they will. I think that if we give our teachers the respect that says, you have an opinion, you have the right to express it, you have the right to talk about it, then they will stand up and do what's right.
All right, thank you. Andrew Burton. Follow-up on that question then. We've heard each of you express in different ways the idea of using your judgment when speaking publicly on issues. I think, not to single it out, but Tony, you mentioned it's freedom of speech up to a point. And certainly we know that freedom of speech is not limitless. For example, what's the old saying, in a crowded theater, you shouldn't yell fire. And in this crowded theater, I want to be perfectly clear, I'm not. However, so if it's a matter of teachers using judgment, what is the point at which they shouldn't speak? Where is that point? Where is that line that you think that teachers should think twice before speaking? And Tony, I'll let you go first on that.
Well, I think it's with any organization or work group that you work in, you have to use some judgment and some discretion. For instance, I am volunteering for the Canada Games. And it's been suggested that if you are not a supporter of the games and you're going to run them down, you're going to speak against them, then maybe you shouldn't be volunteering. It's the same with teaching. Yes, you can definitely speak your mind, give your opinions, and in different settings you know how you can express those views. But I think in a public forum, you have to be careful. You have to be a proud supporter of the school system, of the school you're working at, and so on, to a point. So I definitely believe in free speech and academic freedom and all those words, but it has to be done responsibly, and there has to be a lot of judgment. And there has to be regulations and policies in place to govern that.
All right, Tony and Dorian?
I think that as long as our speech is riddled with respect and dignity, I think teachers should be allowed to do constructive criticism as long as it's not slanderous. We have other rules guiding those principles, and I think, like I said, these mature, wise advocates for education should be able to say something about the education system, even to some degree, if it may show a bit of criticism.
Dorian and Andrew, last word to you.
The question I have, if we are going to say that you have freedom of speech up to a point, who do you want to decide where that point is? Who's going to say, you can say this, but you can't say that? And how are we going to decide who that person is? Are you really comfortable with giving someone that level of authority over what someone can say? I know I'm not. I think that we have laws on slander. We have laws on making false statements. We need to trust those. And when we're talking about people who are in positions of trust within our schools, we need to honor the fact that they are professionals, that they are dedicated. Most of them are working for less money than they could make in other fields because they care about our children, they care about our future. Let's honor that.
All right, thank you. And our speakers on this round, Andrew Burton, Dory Alger, and Tony Cable. Thank you. And our next three are Dennis Fudge, Betty Beckering, and Trish Bella. All right. All right, so your question. School District 57 has an Aboriginal school choice and an Aboriginal education and Aboriginal education workers. Some have said that this amounts to a segregated system. Others say, though, it doesn't go far enough and have suggested that there be a spot on the school board for an Aboriginal representative. Where do you stand on a separate Aboriginal representative for School Board District 57? Betty, I'll start with you on that.
Well, first of all, the Aboriginal Choice School is not a segregated school. It's a school that is instilling the culture and values and reconnecting the Aboriginal students to their heritage. So it's not segregated, it's giving them a sense of who they are and giving them that sense of confidence to be able to move through our education system. The Aboriginal Education Department is very well founded with all of its goals and objectives. There are Aboriginal education workers in each of the schools. I think that they're well represented. I think that there might not be any opposition to having a representative come to our board meetings, and that they are invited. So yeah, I think it's a moot point.
All right, okay. Dennis Fudge.
You know, about a month ago, there was a big protest in China. They were actually given the democratic right to vote, but they're only allowed to vote for certain people. So if you're going to tell us that we can only vote for one Aboriginal person on the school board, aren't we doing the same thing that China's doing right now? We're giving up part of our democracy. I believe in equal rights. I believe everybody should have a chance. I don't believe in discrimination. I don't believe that one person should not get this job because he's color, Aboriginal, male, female, or whatever. And I also don't believe that this individual should get a job because he's male, female, color, or individual, or Chinese, or whatever other. It should be equal right across the board. And you know, once you start bringing in one particular race, then you know, the East Indians could say, well, why don't we have a representative? Because we got a lot of people in school too. But where do you draw the line?
All right, and Trish Bella.
The creation of the Aboriginal came from a request from the community itself. So therefore, the reference to segregation, I find it very unfortunate, actually. I myself identify as a non-First Nations individual. However, locally, provincially, and nationally, I have used my voice to advocate for the rights of the Aboriginal students. So respectfully, I would have to say that I do not believe that you have to be of Aboriginal descent to be passionate and effectively advocate for the rights of those students.
All right, so as a follow-up then, if not a spot specifically set aside for an Aboriginal representative on the board, what would you do to reach out to the Aboriginal community to encourage more people from the Aboriginal community to be a part of at least the candidates who run for school board trusteeship? Betty.
Well, I think that it's open to them to run the same as us. So whether they choose to or not is certainly up to them. But we're very inclusive with our Aboriginal Education Department within our school district, and we have great collaboration with them. Our district principal is very well respected and attends our board meetings regularly. He's part of our senior learning team, so helps come up with the district achievement contract, which has a large component for the Aboriginal education achievement. So we collaborate very openly.
Okay. And Dennis, in terms of either reaching out or encouraging people, or is it personal choice?
I mean, it's always nice to encourage more people out there, but that is a problem sometimes is you can't get these people to participate, and sometimes it's a way of life, you know, well, they've never been an Aboriginal person running, or, you know, or lack of confidence or whatever, I don't know, but, you know, the same thing like getting people in the lower income families to participate in school, you know, in PACs and organize stuff for PACs. They, for some reason, they just don't think they're good enough, or they don't have the interest or whatever, but it's tough. Like, you need to do more advertising, do more promoting, and encourage people. There might be that one person that just needs that extra shot, and he could be the best person you're looking for. That other person just needs that shot.
And Trish, last word to you.
We need involvement from all of our community. We need to have more involvement and more consultation with everybody. However, I think we also need to have the respect and maybe understand the sensitivities around why somebody may not feel comfortable in the public education forum coming forward to advocate. There is history there, and I think that we have to be understanding and cognizant of bringing in the community into the education system.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Betty Beckery, Trish Bella, and Dennis Weiss. Thank you. All right, so our last two speakers will be Tim Bennett and Kate Cook. All right. So this is the last question of this section, and then we'll take a break after this, and you'll have an opportunity to ask questions in the second half. So your question. Now, on Daybreak, we did a story recently on the subject of school district 67 or 57 retiring the last of its Macintosh computers. Apple's in everything, aren't they? All right. Anyway, afterwards, we were contacted by a number of listeners who were concerned that the school district has a policy of disposing of technology and other supplies rather than reselling, repurposing, or donating the items. Do you support the policy of trashing these computers, or would you change it? So, Tim, I'll give you the opportunity to start.
Thank you, and I do find it a little ironic because anyone who's followed the last board, Trustee Cook and I are probably the ones who have had the most heated arguments at the board table. You know, but I think on this issue, we agree, and we actually debated this last night at the board table. We're hearing, especially now during the city council debates, the argument about taxpayer money. And no wonder you got, I think, a flood of calls, because now more than ever, people are really cognizant of how their tax dollars are being spent. And when they hear that taxpayer monies on computers are being discarded, they're getting angry. Right now, the last night, the board has asked for those Macs to be put on hold so that policy can be reviewed and we can find an appropriate way of dealing with that. There's a lot, it's a very complex issue. We have to look at cost analysis, freedom of information, but it is work that the district is looking at for an effective use of taxpayer dollars.
All right, and Kate, do you support the policy as it stands, or would you try to change it?
I don't know. So since I put forward that motion, and Tim so eloquently put it forward, and Tim and I have actually debated this many times in agreement that we do agree that we would like to see better disposal of our surplus assets. The flip side of this, which is to take this question even further on Macs, is more, I'd like to see more site-based management decisions on computers within the school district, so that school districts can maybe have more choice on their educational decisions regarding the purchases of technology. Because what I'd like to see is not only better disposal of surplus assets, but also better use of technology within our school districts, so that we're getting and we're targeting technology that is going to be fully used by staff in the school district.
Just as a follow-up to that, I mean, what can be done in terms of getting technology that can last a while, or at least is adaptable over a period of time. Sometimes with computers, you don't necessarily have to trash them. You can upgrade them, do other things so that they'll last a little bit longer. What can be done on the technology side of things to get perhaps more life out of the technology that's purchased? I'll let Kate start on that.
Shall we keep going?
Sure.
So, so for example, we've had a discussion in the school district regarding tablets. And do we want to have iPads or do we want to have just Androids? And so we want to go there. And what would be the best use? Do we want to have an IBM computer lab or do we want to have a Mac lab? What does staff know how to use and how can staff use it most effectively? You could have a computer lab, but if half of it doesn't work, the staff will never use it. You could have 6 iPads, but if they work, maybe the staff will always use those instead. So how can we better target our dollars so that kids are learning technology, because that is one of the languages that they need to learn nowadays? And then how do we get staff to use it? How are we targeting it for staff?
Let me just, I'll just quickly jump in on this because, Tim, in the case of, just because I'm a computer nerd too, I know that Macintosh is applicable for certain types of applications, more graphical, video kind of things, and it's more suited to that environment than PC. So when it comes to the students who are making, especially in the high school years, making choices about what they're going to do and how they're going to grow and innovate with technology, how much room is there for diversity and having a multitude of different types of operating systems and computer types?
Well, I think if you look at, so I guess the whole debate of PC versus Mac stemmed from a board decision in April 2010, which was a move to a shared services model and to, as part of sustainability, to move to a single platform. When that announcement was made, 3 months later, the first generation iPad came out. So I think Andrew said it very eloquently at the beginning. Times change, and especially technology has changed a lot from even the decision of 2010 to today's date. And I actually have the opportunity, sitting with Trustee Cook, I'm chairing right now an ad hoc committee looking at mobile technology, bringing in all of our partner groups to figure out how we can incorporate mobile technology and that whole idea of getting technology into the hands of kids, how we can incorporate that into the classroom. We actually have a meeting coming up next week. So the discussion is happening and we really need to figure out a way that we can appropriately and cost effectively get technology into the hands of kids.
All right, thank you so much. Tim Bennett, Kate Cook. And again, it was random with the questions, random with the selections of candidates, but I guess we got lucky on that one. All right, we're going to take a break for 10 minutes that will last no longer than 15. Feel free to get up, stretch your legs. There is a washroom further down the hall, so you can, if you need to use the facilities, or just down the hall and off to your left. We'll be back in about 10-15 minutes. Again, there's question ballots at the back, so feel free to flag up myself or Andrew to ask your questions. Thank you. All right, we'll get underway in just a moment. We're just waiting for our technology to catch up to us. Someone did bring this up to me during the intermission, so I thought it might be fair to mention this now, just in case some of you forgot it. We're going to try and be out of here by 9:30 at the latest. Possibly a little before, a little by 9, I would say, because like I said, we try to keep this under 9 minutes if we can. And I only mention that because I don't know how many of you are on a meter tonight, or are worried that perhaps you can't send us the bill, we won't pay the ticket, I'm sorry. But if you can, or if you have somebody with you, you might want to have that taken care of for you. If not, let's hope they're not being too watchful tonight. All right. They're out there 24/7? Oh my goodness. All right. Is it 25 bucks? I can't afford 25 bucks. All right. You're good to go, Andrew? All right. Well, welcome back to the College of New Caledonia in Prince George. The college, as well as our colleagues at the Prince George Citizen and CBC Radio, are hosting an all-candidates forum here tonight for School District 57. And many thanks to our candidates who have joined us here this evening. Once again, a round of applause for our candidates. And I know the camera is pointed this way for the purposes of our viewers on YouTube and on our website, cbc.ca/BigBreakNorth, but certainly if the camera was flipped around, you'd see a packed room here tonight. So thank you very much. Hopefully you can be heard, and thank you so much for being interested in the future of our schools in Prince George and throughout School District 57. So this half of the program, or at least for the next half hour, we're going to spend some time with questions that you have submitted. And once again, we're going to call people up at random in teams of 3, with the exception, of course, of our last group of 2. And we will be asking each of them a variety of the questions that you have submitted and been so kind to consider for them tonight. And so why don't we just start right away? We'll pick out 3 names and at random. Cheryl Warrington, Sheldon Harris, and Betty Beckering. And it's certainly nice that we can get one more opportunity with Sheldon's outfit. Some of these questions have names, but where they are attached, I certainly will read the name of the person who's making or asking the question. I'll start with a question from Rob Larson, and candidates Rob asks, class size and composition. What were teachers fighting for? And I guess this is in reference to the dispute between teachers and government. So without anything further to go on from Rob, why don't we just ask a little bit about how you see the future of class size and composition within School District 57. Cheryl, I'll start with you.
Well, when I started in 2005, that was one of the issues that I stood firm on. Class size and composition is all about meeting the needs of our students. In every class where you have multiple needs, and today we have growing needs, the complexities of our classrooms have grown exponentially, and the supports that we need to meet those needs need to be in line. And that's what our teachers were standing up for. Our teachers were saying, we need to pay attention to what's happening in our classrooms. It's in our classrooms that the future is made. It's in our classrooms that our students are educated. It's in our classrooms that our students' needs are met, and we need to be addressing them. Class size and composition is and will continue to be an issue this board and district must address.
Sheldon.
Okay, I sometimes, when I talk to people, I talk about this planet I live on, and it's really a nice place, and one of the reasons is I have a lot of authority and control on everything that happens on my planet. And I believe class size composition is something that the provincial government, the ministry, did to the teachers in an automatic manner. I believe there was a legitimately negotiated agreement between the government and the teachers that specified the size of class and the composition. And the government arbitrarily just decided to throw it away. Hey, we're not doing that. And I guess if you want to find a way to break trust with people, it's just and devalue them. Just break agreements that you made with them. And they have won this twice in the courts, and the government just keeps saying no. But trust us.
Okay. Thank you, Sheldon. And Betty.
Well, the fight for sure was exactly that, the class size, although our district, we've really tried to keep the class size to the 30 or lower, but the composition is the biggest issue, and that's how difficult it is for teachers to try and cope with, say, a 30 classroom size with several special needs within your class. It's very difficult to cope, and some of those are not assessed. So there's a long wait list for having students assessed, and it becomes unmanageable. And I certainly can feel the frustration that teachers experience with the classroom size and composition.
Okay, thank you each. I want to do a follow-up question, but in the interest of time, what I want to do is invite each of the candidates to take 30 seconds at this point just to sum up. You can either use the question that was just asked to sum up what you want to say about your campaign and encouraging people to vote for you. But Andrew will also give you a 10-second notice on this as well. But if you each take about 30 seconds just to outline why people should vote for you on November 15th as we wrap things up here this evening. I'll give you a moment to grab your notes. All right, but we will start with Cheryl, and you have 30 seconds to sum up your campaign.
30 seconds to say how passionate I am about public education, how committed I've been for the last 9 years, actually for the last 45 years that I've lived in this community, and how I really would very much value continuing this work. I do hope that you will see fit to see my worthiness, my leadership style, my commitment, and my energy that I hope to bring to this work. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. And Debbie?
Well, I was talking about things that were going right in our school district, and the one that I especially wanted to emphasize was the after-school arts and sports program that's targeted to our vulnerable students. And it's so successful that it makes you glad to be part of School District 57 to see that program. So I'm hoping that you'll allow me to carry on and be a trustee and continue to do things that are right for our district. And I hope you'll vote for Betty Beckering on November 15th.
Thank you, Betty. And Sheldon Harris.
30 seconds, this is tough. There's a lot of opportunity, I think, working with what's going to be the newly elected Board of Trustees to rebuild the relationships that we have with the teachers in this district. You have some wonderful, talented people. Some of them have disconnected. I think we need to start at the top. I think we need to value these people. And the only other thing I have to say is I spend a lot of money on the stress. Thank you.
All right. Sheldon Harris, Betty Beckering, Cheryl Walton. Thank you. All right. Next three are Brenda Hooker, Kate Cook, and Trish Bella. Thank you very much. And your question comes from Gail. Gail has some very specific instructions on her question, so I'll play along with it for a little while, and then I'll make up my own rules. So for each of the candidates, Gail would like a yes or no answer on this question. We'll start with Kate. If unionized staff were to go on strike again, would you cross the picket line Yes or no?
No.
And Trish,
No, and I didn't this time either.
Brenda.
No.
Okay, so now that's Gail's part done. Now mine. Kate, why? Why no?
I actually stood for what the teachers were out for. So that's why I didn't cross the picket line. I actually thought that there was a lot of issues there. It was incredibly complex, and I think salary was just minimal to why they were out there. I think that the class size and composition is huge, and the stripping of it, they have so much to fight for. As we were saying before, composition is huge. You don't know what you're going to get, and you need your supports. And the funding just isn't there. So we're seeing changes. We're seeing the dynamics change throughout the years. Our classes are becoming more complex. Schools are changing. Schools used to be just your ABC, but now you're seeing us do a lot of social work too. Social emotional learning is the new buzzword now. Those workshops fill up straight away. So we need to have more supports for our staff so that they can reach the children, because we want our children to be successful.
Okay.
So composition was huge, and that's why I'm supporting teachers.
Thank you, Kate. Trish, you said no, and I'll ask you the same question. Why?
I respect the right of all of our employees to fairly negotiate a contract. And out of that respect, I will not cross the picket line. I had asked this board and urged them to either move the location of the meeting to a neutral place, or to even move the time of the meeting so that the picket lines were not there and they would not have to be crossed. So no, I did not have to cross any of the picket lines.
And Brenda, you said no as well, and why?
Well, it is important for our employees to have the right to negotiate and to bargain fairly. And I think we need to respect the picket lines. I'm a union employee myself in my day job. And that was really important to me. However, in this role, I'm a trustee, and that makes it difficult because we're the employer in that situation. And so sometimes in a governance capacity, you have different expectations. But if we would have the opportunity not to cross the picket line and not to break that faith, then we did. And like Trish said, we moved meetings times, and we had a public board meeting that went on during a rally, but that was not a picket line. So I felt my job was to be a trustee, to be there, because I really did respect the class size and composition that they were fighting for. When we have one classroom with 6 IEPs and a 2-grade split and no EA support, that's not adequate, and we need to do better. And I really respected what the teachers were fighting for and the stand that they took for us on behalf of all of our students in public education.
Thank you. All right, so I'll invite each of you again to make a 30-second statement on your campaign and why people should support you on November 15th. And I'll start with Kate Cook.
Always pick the introvert to go first. Thank you so much. This has been so great tonight. Great. I have high expectations for the last 3 years. I've tried to raise the game for everybody involved in student success. I've worked for healthy care in schools, good relationships between all partner groups. I talk regularly with teachers, principals, other staff, parents about what's going on in the district, especially where there is dysfunction and we need to improve. I have fought for transparent governance and questions of management and others, and refuse to simply rubber stamp motions. Although I respect my fellow trustees, that usually puts me in the minority, often 1 out of 7. And I look forward to working hard with the new board to ensure high expectations are met. Sorry.
Thank you, Kate. Brenda. Oh, yeah, go ahead. 30 seconds for you.
Okay, thank you. I may be a nervous public speaker, but I'm a good trustee, and I'm a really strong advocate for education. I'm very passionate about education. I promised 3 things last time: to work hard, to be accountable, and to do my job with integrity. And I've stuck to those promises. I have worked really hard. I care about kids, and I care about educating myself on the issues and meeting with stakeholders and being available and bringing your issues to the table. So please vote Brenda Hooker on November 15th. Thank you.
Thank you. Brenda Hooker, Trish Bella, Kate Cook. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry. Oh, my apologies.
I'm not a client on either.
It's so hard with such an introverted group, but yes, Trish Bella. Please, your 30 seconds.
I believe that every student has the right to safe, quality, accessible public education. And I believe that public education is the cornerstone of our society. My dedication, my commitment, and my leadership skills, I ask you to support me in returning to the board on November 15th. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so next three are Denise McDonald, Bob Harris, Andrew Burton. Thank you, gentlemen. All right. So this next question comes from Jason Morgan. And Jason is with the Clayton. That's correct, right? Okay. And thank you, Jason. And first of all, Jason's question is, this district has policy that identifies the inclusion of an Aboriginal Education Board. Recently, this board was resigned by the district. In your role as a trustee, what is the move forward with the Aboriginal community as it relates to School District 57? So why don't we start with Bob on this one?
Thank you very much. Regrettably, I have very little information with regard to the history that you're referring to. I'm always a believer that it's important that groups do get together and try to come to some kind of resolution. I would hope that with goodwill and determination, groups can establish some sort of common ground and we can move forward. I wish I could give you something more positive and more full, but as I say, I'm limited in terms of my knowledge and background.
Denise?
To me, same thing, I have limited knowledge on this. However, I believe that we need to move forward to include all of our students, be it Aboriginal, rural, special needs, that we need to work hard how to include. We have a very diverse district. We need to figure out ways to include everybody, to make sure everybody gets an equal education. My children are in elementary school. They've been involved in many Aboriginal programs, and I am non-Aboriginal. And their programs are based on leadership, compassion, caring, and coming together, and we need to learn from those programs.
All right, and Andrew?
Our First Nations communities have a different understanding of what learning is, and a different understanding of what responsibility is, what community is, and what family is. We need to respect that. We need to listen to our First Nations communities. We need leadership coming from the First Nations communities, and we need to support those structures and those means of doing things. This is not just about giving First Nations populations something special. It is much more than that. In some sense, it is reparation. It is correcting things that have been wrong for hundreds of years. And it is recognizing that, as Mahatma Gandhi once said, what people would not prefer their own questionable government over the good government of a foreign power.
Thank you, Andrew. So once again, I'll give each of you some time to make your last pitches for your campaign, at least in this forum, at least. So if you could each take 30 seconds, again, you can either address the question at hand, or you can summarize what it is what you want to achieve on the school trustee board. So Bob, I'll let you go first, 30 seconds, and Andrew will also cue you when you've got a little time left.
Thank you. I'm a great believer in public education. I think it's the foundation of the democracy that we live in. I think it's very important that we have a robust system that serves the needs of our community. My own background, I've spent 35 years working in the public education system. I've spent time in the different levels of education. I've done policy development. I've worked as a counselor. I've helped individual students develop their career goals, their educational goals, and we have done wonderful things together with parents.
Thank you, Bob. And Denise?
As you can tell, I'm probably the least experienced public speaker up here. As a parent and a homemaker, I have a child in a rural school and one in an urban school. I believe our education is changing. I believe our students, we need to work more on early literacy and including all our students. look at a plan and what our district is going to look like in 25 and 50 years, because our students are like trees, we need to grow them, and they grow for 100 years. And that's the only way our society is going to go forward. Thank you. Vote for me.
Denise McDonald, thank you. Andrew Burton, Bob Harris, thank you so much. Oh, yes. I've got to keep track of these things. Andrew, you get your 30 seconds.
Hey, never rush me off the stage before the curtain.
No.
All right. Why should you vote for me? I was trained in theater technique by Augusto Boal from Brazil. And he works in what's called theater of the oppressed. And I've been practicing that here in Prince George for the past 15 years, as many of you know. That philosophy comes from education, and that is that we need to honor the humanity of people. We need to draw on the innate justice and abilities of everyone. That's what I bring.
Thank you, Andrew. Andrew Burton, Denise McDonald, Bob Harris, thank you. All right, and our next three are Dennis Fudge, Eric Depineau, and Dory Alger. All right. All right, so, and like I said, just feel free to adjust the mics if you have to get it closer to you. All right, so this question doesn't have someone assigned to it in terms of a name, but the question is, what initiative do you support to deal with the increasing mental health challenges facing students from kindergarten to grade 12? So, Eric, why don't you start us off on this?
As somebody who's recently gone through the education system, only a few short years ago, I graduated. I know there's definitely support that I needed, whether that's emotional, whether it was conflict resolution, mental health in terms of crisis, but simply wasn't available, and that's due to a number of reasons. We need to make sure that we're doing everything possible to get the resources at that beginning entry level up front to deal with those problems, help those individuals. Any initiative that comes forward, any of the campaigns that are already going, I'd be happy to support, happy to endorse, happy to promote and bring to our district. Thank you.
Okay, Eric, and Dennis next.
Unfortunately, I'm more of a deep thinker rather than a quick thinker, but for mental health, it's increasing over the years. There's more and more mental health issues out there in schools. The funding has really increased. We don't really have the professional support staff out there. That's not increasing the number of people. I think it will help if we can actually take more funding, hire more of the professionals to help the mental health issues and that, which would actually take pressure off a lot of the teachers. They can do the job better. And like I said, it seems to be an increase, and nobody knows why. But I think we actually should be putting some funding into research and trying to figure out, what is causing all these mental health. Right now, compared to previous year, find the problems and solve it and eliminate a lot of these mental health issues.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. And Dory?
I think the key to dealing with this issue is early assessments. I think we really need to find out what the cause of the mental health issue is, whether it's bullying or harassment, trouble at home. And I've heard from teachers that a lot of times they have kids in their elementary school classes that are requiring assessments, but there seems to be a long time before the children actually get the assessments. So I think once the child is assessed, then we can move forward and deal with the problem with the support services we have. And if we don't have them, we should add them, like the counseling and the additional support. And I found even with my own daughter, who struggled terribly in elementary school, and she was blessed with a teacher and an assistant that opened her mind and helped her grasp concepts and set a foundation for her so she could be overly successful, graduating a year early, straight A's in grade 8 to grade 12. And it was because of that early intervention and that early help when they were assessing the problem, they figured out what it was, and they solved it for her.
All right, thank you, Dory. All right, so we'll give each of you again the opportunity to spend 30 seconds summarizing your campaign and why people should support you on November 15th. And Eric, I'll start with you.
Folks, if I could convince you to do something as important as get out and vote in 30 seconds, I'd be selling used cars, but not be on the stage. My office is right next door. I know that this building doesn't shut down until midnight. My door will be open if somebody wants to have an in-depth conversation. Outside of that, I challenge you all to add as many of us as you can find on social media, learn about us. It's all out there. We're open, so thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And Dennis.
Well, I spent 7 years with the district parent advisory, representing parents from the outside to the school district and school board trustees with that experience. And I'm also a physicist, so I deal a lot, last 20 years dealing with numbers. I can spot pattern recognition and everything, so I can find problems and trends that people don't see, and I can also see problems that people don't know that actually exist.
All right, thank you, Dennis. And Dory Alger.
I think you can sum up my platform in the acrostic ACT, which stands for Achievement, Creative Solutions, and Teamwork. And my opening statements, I got through achievement and creative solutions, but I want to touch on teamwork. And I believe that teamwork is foundational to our success. Collaboration and cooperation is essential between parents, teachers, students, administration, support staff, board members, and partner organizations. Why vote for me? Because I'm an experienced board member and I understand and overcome financial challenges. Please vote Dory Alger, November 15th.
Thank you, Dory. Dory Alger, Dennis Fudge, Eric Gabrielle. All right, and three more. And they are Bruce Weeb, Tim Bennett, and Don Sabo. Thank you, John. Now your question, I don't have a name attached to the question, but certainly we ask it. And the question is, I'm a parent of a child with special needs, and have recently decided to homeschool out of frustration. Having discovered a large community of families in the same situation, what has or will be done to invite us back? Tim.
Well, I guess first off, to the person who asked the question, I apologize and would really hope that we can regain the trust in public education to have you back into the schools. I know there's been a lot of discussion both as a board and in the community about how we can better support students with special needs. Not just those who are designated, but also those who are the gray area children, those who sometimes fall between the cracks. And really it comes down to needing to work with getting the assessments done faster, getting those students who need the support, and breaking down those silos between Northern Health, the school district, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, and getting the supports working together so there's not so many hoops to jump through to ensure that children get the help they need. And again, to the person who asked the question, I'm sorry you have removed your child from the system.
And Dawn, when we come to you next on the issue of special needs children in the classroom.
You know, you really need to look at class size and composition. Let's just put class size away, but let's look at the composition issue. And composition is a huge issue that needs to be addressed. When you're looking at composition, you're looking at the number of special needs within a classroom. And when you have composition issues where there are too many children with special needs in a classroom and that composition part is ignored, then you're going to get a situation where you have parents that become very upset. You have special needs children whose needs aren't being met because the teachers are too busy with the rest of the class. So you really need to start looking at that composition piece. There needs to be a better number there. That way these children get the attention and the support services that they need in the classroom.
All right. And Bruce.
First of all, to the parent who asked the question, I think that's a real challenge, having a special needs child. Sorry, I was going to say student, but child. I think that's a real challenge, and I think for parents that's something that really is heartfelt. It takes a lot of extra work. You want your child to be loved, cared for, and included. And I think that schools need to do as much as they can to help you and your child and others with children of special needs. I think that you would need to work with your individual school, your administrator, your teacher, talk to them and find out what the services are. What your frustrations are, I don't know, so I can't answer that specifically. But I think that the schools continue to work to improve and help programs. And yes, there's limited funding, but maybe there's some team opportunities with support that can help not just your child, but others with that same need in that school.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. And again, I'll invite each of you to take 30 seconds to summarize your campaign and to encourage people to vote for you. Tim Bennett, we'll start with you.
Thank you, and I guess to everyone here and listening at home, thank you for the opportunity to represent School District 57 over the past 3 years. The reason I ran 3 years ago hasn't changed. It is still to fight for the 12,000 plus students living over 52,000 square kilometers at a School District 57. I've had the opportunity to be into the schools, to visiting teachers, and really fighting for kids, both as a trustee and in my professional life. Learn more at timbennett.me, and please, I look forward to your support November 15th.
Thank you, Tim. And Don.
Yeah, I'm BC First Nations status Indian. So just to let you know, there was some discussion here about why there wasn't participation. I'm not afraid of being here. And I am very interested in public education for our kids, particularly for First Nations kids. Did you know that the number of students enrolled in the district 3 years ago was 24% of the student population? Now it's up to 26% of the student population for status Indians. We need to take a look at that piece, and we need to make sure that they're included within the public education system, including the board.
Thank you, Don Saba. And Bruce Weed.
Thank you. As I stated earlier, I've been an educator for 35 years at School District 57. I've worked across the district from Dunster through Hickson, through Newcastle Lake, through Malaspina, Vanway, McBride. So I know the areas, I know the needs of the communities, I know the students' needs as well, and the funding limitations. I want to work for you and your children because I care about kids. I've have been a lifelong learner for 35 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Bruce Weed, Don Sabo, Tim Bennett. Thank you. And our last question to our last two people that haven't spoken in this round, Valentine Crawford and Tony Cable. Thank you. Now, we actually have two questions left, but they're kind of similar ideas, so I'll try and address both questions in one go here. They're from Derek Walters and Ruth Meyer, so thank you for your questions. Both questions address the issue of funding and certainly how funds are spent at the school board trustee or at the school board level. So if elected to the board, what would you do to keep cuts away from the classroom and that funds, taxpayer funds, are spent in an effective manner? So Tony, you'll start us off on that.
Well, it seems trite to always say it, but in my experience as a principal and teacher, I think where the rubber hits the road is in the classroom. And that's where we need to be spending the majority of our funds. Now, we do need to have maintenance to schools. We need to improve the infrastructure. We need to have other things to support the classrooms. But in the end, the majority of the resources should be spent in the classroom and dealing with issues like class composition and making sure that all of the resources are in place at the classroom level. So funding, we have to, as trustees, be very careful with budgets. We only have a limited amount that comes from the government. We have to be good stewards of that money, but as much as possible, we need to spend the majority of the money where the action is, where the students are.
Valentine.
It's a no-brainer that it goes to the classroom. You've got technology and special education. All these components that comprise the classroom is those dollars. The trouble that happens in times is the Ministry of Education targets funds that pulls it out. You have unfunded inflation costs like medical service premiums, gas, lighting, heating, all these things that add pressure. But at the end of the day, it is the services that go into each classroom, from technology, from student aids, assistants, teachers. That's where that money needs to go in it, and I'm full support of that.
Okay, thank you, Valentine. All right, and to our last two candidates tonight, I'll give you each the 30 seconds to summarize your campaigns and make your last pitch for people to vote for you. So, Tony.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone coming out tonight. My reason for running is that I do have a great amount of experience in education. I have a varied experience like Bruce, and I really want to give back to my community and the education system. And I guess one of the things I will say is that around the board table, I think it's important to ask those tough, complex questions, and I think I have the knowledge to ask those questions. I have a respect for the staffs that work in the school and the district, and I want to support the district.
Thank
you.
Valentine.
It was a teacher that inspired me to finish high school, and it was teachers that inspired me to rerun for the school board. I want to talk about ideas that affect kids on the ground in the classrooms and change school cultures. I'm talking about farms to schools that create healthy communities, restorative practices that help deal with the bullying and other issues of behavior on the ground. These are the ideas that we need to be talking about, that teachers are talking about and not getting the support that they need. That's why I'm running.
Thank you. Valentine Crawford, Tony Davis. So there you have it. And I just want to make one more quick mention that Chris Stein was also supposed to be with us tonight and regrettably couldn't make it. I believe he has some, or has a statement at the back of the room that outlines how he feels about this election. So you're certainly welcome to view that before you leave here tonight. One thing I want to say before we wrap up is that this forum isn't necessarily the end of the decision-making process. It certainly is not necessarily the beginning, but it is part of the decision-making process as we get ready to vote on November 15th. And at the risk of repeating what I said 2 weeks ago at the Melchi campaign, when we don't engage as voters, as citizens, it certainly lets the people in charge know we don't care what you do. It isn't necessarily a case of, well, you know, if you don't vote, you don't have a right to complain. If you pay taxes, you have a right to complain. But the issue is more about showing the people who run for office that you're interested in who has these positions. And it isn't necessary, and we have so many people in the case of the school board trusteeship that there's a lot of decisions to make. There are 7 people that are going to go to the board. Now, you don't have to vote for 7 candidates. You can vote for 5. You can vote for 1. You can vote for the people or person that you feel most dedicated about having at that table and having that discussion on our behalf. The question is to make a decision, to get to know some of these people if you're going to take the time to vote. And sometimes it's a matter of people getting in that booth and just ticking off the first 7 names you see. But at the same time, while that's also valid, it doesn't hurt to just take a few moments out of your day and consider who's going to be around for the next 4 years making these decisions on our behalf. So to our viewers and listeners on YouTube, to our colleagues at the Prince George Citizen and here at the College of New Caledonia, to Book who helped out on sound and technical tonight, to my producer, Andrew Curiata, for helping put this whole thing together, and finally to you, ladies and gentlemen, for your considerate questions and your time here this evening. Thank you so much. Safe home. We'll see you again soon.